Hello, it's Bat from Nature Manufacturer. First of all, I would like to say thank you to R.A.M to give us ability to use her awesome music which we put at the start of the video. More her music you could find under the link which we put in our video description. This whole scene you could download also under the link which is included in video description. Basically, you could play with this scene as you want and learn from it. So let's take a look on the assets which we use to build this scene. The whole shape of the scene, the terrain, was built initially with Gaia, but you could modify it and rebuild also using by Gaia or by Unity terrain stamping system, no matter. The stamps which you use to shape this terrain work with both systems. We use latest CTS complete terrain shader to render nice high blending between textures on the terrain, and it also supports pixel normal and terrain instantiating in his latest version. So if you have it, we advise to upgrade it and play with all these new features which are inside. We use screen space shadows, which is post-processing from asset store to render shadows from small object like grass, because it's much better way than rendering it from object itself. Simply post-processing is cheaper in such an example. We use Vegetation Studio in Pro version as a foliage spawner. So we use biomes which basically spawn whole forest for us in dedicated areas. We prepared few biomes so you could drag and drop forest, lake, road and river. Also the basic biome which is responsible for clean landscape, right? So from 3D content, we use Dynamic Nature Starter to cover lakes and rivers by ice, and also to set ice flow around the lakes and rivers. We also use our advanced foliage and rock pack, basically because it contains rocks and grass covered by snow. For roads, we use Easy Road HD add-on. It's because of the shader that we could cover our road by snow by vertex colors. We use R.A.M River Auto Material to generate roads and lakes, frozen lakes, rivers, basically river splines, and so on. There is also Winter Mountains and Stamps pack, which was used to put background mountains and terrain stamps on our terrain surface. Okay, seems it's all assets. Oh no, there's also mountain tree pack, Dynamic Nature. We use it to get nice trees covered by snow. There are also textures and mask which we built especially for this tutorial, so they are included in this tutorial pack. So what we could do at this scene? First of all, whole foliage is spawned by Vegetation Studio Pro. It could spawn forest, lake or river foliage just out of the box. Simply drag and drop. Let's take a look on the forest biome. You will notice that if I will change the shape of the polygon or move its point, it will automatically add foliage, exactly forest foliage in this area. If you want to generate textures under the forest, you have to go to biome and click generate splats. It will paint whole netless, roots and snow under the trees. Let's take a look on the environment which Vegetation Studio Pro generates for us. As we see, we have complete forest environment. There is something more what I want to show you about Vegetation Studio Pro. It's hidden somewhere in the project. Yeah. We call this forest prefab. You simply drag and drop forest into the scene. It contains all predefined rules about blending between biomes. I would say there is no easier way to plant whole forest in game. You simply drag and drop, bake textures, and here we go. Nothing more. What else we could do? For example, let's go to the terrain and let's spawn mountain. The new inti-terrain stamping system allows us to simply drag and drop mountain into our terrain. We have a lot of stamps in our assets. Basically, you could do the same thing with Gaia, but it will be a lot more complex. There's a lot more options to manipulate whole future terrain shapes in Gaia. Let's paint the hill on our terrain, and then we will go to Vegetation Studio Pro and force vegetation system to repaint the whole terrain splats on our terrain. So as they are using angles rules and biome rules, new textures should appear very shortly in proper way and distribution. As we could see, the new textures, I would say, fit the new shape of the terrain. So in such a way you could highly modify this scene and get very cool result without spending hours on painting textures over the terrain. Now we will play with rivers, lakes and roads. By hierarchy, we'll simply create river spline as a 3D object. We set up first point, we go to simulate section, we change river length, and let's take a look on the simulation. And system show us how river will look if we will click generate. So let's click generate and see what will happen. And we get a river. Now we go to basic section, we have profile option here, we'll use it. Basically, profiles will hold information about our lake or river, about carving and terrain painting. Let's find one profile, where it is. Let's take the frozen river profile, and we have the ice on our spline. Let's maybe change its size and then carve the terrain. We click carve terrain and we got it. Now we could also paint our terrain, for example by sand. It's a very simple way to get proper textures under our ice surface. There is a better way to generate textures under our splines and much more suitable for Vegetation Studio. As we see, we have still rocks and foliage in our riverbed. We want to remove it. In this case, we go to basic and Vegetation Studio section. We click add vegetation biome mask and we have it. We could change the resolution of the mask. Now we will choose a proper biome for our river. So we go to the mask and choose river biome. Let's find it. Oh, here it is. And as this is baked data, because for bigger worlds, when you have a lot of vegetation, you bake the final result to reduce GPU overhead. Now we should clean the cache which we prepared before video. Basically, this will turn on runtime spawning for us, so we will able to modify scene at runtime. As you will see, it generates real-time data for us. For example, this ice flow. So we have objects around the river. Now, for example, we could play with biomes and change road, and lake just to see the result. So let's change it and see the result. As you see, object disappear for road and other biomes. In this case, let's bring back the river biome and generate splats for it. In a moment you will see that our biome for river which we prepared is pretty complex. It spawned textures over the angles, so there will be no flat sand on the river. You will notice that in low slopes it spawned mostly sand, but when angles grow up it starts to spawning, for example, rocks nicely blended with sand. This whole frozen river don't have to be covered by ice. We could, for example, use liquid one, like this one. As you see, river material automatically generate cascades, waterfalls, also by slopes. So this is how we could easily generate our river. Of course, we could resize it at every point. We could also change the position and change the mask around our river. For that, we simply go to the mask, and for example, we could turn on automatic runtime mask changing, but it's pretty expensive. We do not advise to use it in longer rivers or with masks that have huge amount of points. In our new upcoming version, we speed up everything a lot, so it should work even better. So anyway, let's take a look on the something else. For example, lake. Let's find nice place for our lake. Maybe in the place when river ends. We click create 3D object and lake polygon, and we set up few points on our terrain. Maybe something like that. Cool thing is that lakes also support profiles, so you could predefine whole lake in our profile system. We choose water surface, but we could, for example, use ice surface with frozen lake as well. Let's choose now ice surface. We could now carve the terrain under our lake. The same we could do with painting. Same as in rivers, we could use biomes. So we simply go and add biome mask and choose proper biome, for example, river, and generate splat map. In few seconds we get pretty nice ice lake object, starting from flow on the borders to coated foliage inside the lake, and of course whole terrain painting inside whole lake and under the ice surface. So we have pretty nice and complex group of features which give us ability to rebuild, modify this scene without spending hours on texture painting or setting new rules for ground or forest, because everything works out of the box. You simply drag and drop forest, you could drag and drop lake, river, or any other object which is connected to river automaterial splines. Terrain is 4 kilometers square. As we see, it's 2000 x 2000 meters. You could simply change the terrain shape by terrain stamping, add new mountains. Everything is out of the box. Especially when you create a new mountain or just new river, all painting stuff is made by Vegetation Studio automatically. You could even connect different types of ice surface on lake and river shapes. You simply use our vertex painter inside the spline and vertex color alpha. Also, when you think about connection between two transparent shaders and materials. You have to remember about render queue. They couldn't be on the same value because they will generate z-fading on blended area. So simply create offset by one or other small value between them. So we have a nice environment. It's mostly everything that I want to show you, but there is one more thing that I want to put on this scene. Let's go to hierarchy and create reverse spline just to set up road. We will set few points on our terrain, also through the forest. Now we will find our road profile and drag and drop it into our spline. As you see, we get a white road. We'll use vertex color to recover it, but first we'll change the size of the spline. We simply set up new value and we change the width of the road. There are about two options for this road. We could snap it into the terrain or force, just carve the terrain under our road. For the second one, we simply go to terrain sections and we click carve. For road, same as for lakes and rivers, we will use biome mask to cut whole foliage from inside our road shape. We will reduce the resolution of the mask and then add a mask. Now we will choose road type of biome, which will basically cut whole environment from inside the mask. So now we have a road even through the forest. We will focus on recover road from the snow cover. Basically we'll use the vertex color to get road material from the snow. And as we see, everything works. We simply recover terrain, recover the road from the snow, and it looks pretty nice. It seems there must be big snowstorm just on this scene. So anyway, this is how we blend road borders with snow, so it will look pretty natural. It will be not going to be perfect, but I think for most cases it's enough. So this is how you could play with this scene with all predefined stuff which we provide to you. And there's probably one cool thing that we could show. It's CTS and its high blending between textures. For that we go to CTS profile in our terrain and we will focus on these rocks. You will see if I will change the height map depth, the blending between layers change a lot. Of course, it's a matter of taste how you will set up these rules on your terrain. Basically in CTS you could everything modify yourself. If you will look on this forest, you will see there's needles, there are roots and snow textures, all blended. You could change this blending, you could pop up the roots, everything could be adjusted. Just take a look how we could increase visibility of these roots, just changing the high map depth, for example. The main idea and rule about high blending on CTS is that you have to put textures in correct order. You should start from texture with low granulate like sand and snow, and then end on big surface like rocks, for example. If you will hold this, the whole blending will work very natural. You will see this gives a lot in your scene. It's truly best way to get best result with CTS. It could be a bit problematic when you want to change the order of the textures, but everything could be figured out. I just find one more thing that it's worth of showing. You could really modify the lakes in river auto material. For example, we could blend the lake and this river even more. The flow map on the lake could be adjusted to fit the river, so water will push the lake surface and mass in correct direction, in correct place. Just take a look. We will use our flow map painter for this lake, and we'll paint flow map which will fit the whole situation, the lake borders and the river which push water mass inside into the middle of the lake. When you're painting flow map on surfaces, you always have to remember that it should be pretty smooth, because if you will change direction and speed in very short distance, so the blend will be hard, it will generate problems on UV and artifacts instead of nice changing of water direction. Now we simply adjust the flow map to the lake borders. In new version of the system, it will generate this automatically, so it's just only for this situation. Finally, let's add some noise on the middle of the lake, and I think this will be enough for this case. We could notice that water moves in proper direction, but yeah, let's increase the effect. We'll see what will happen. We will adjust the speed and direction of the water near the river to higher values. And here we got a very nice natural effect with water which was pushed by river mass. Of course, you could adjust the speed yourself, but if we look on the lake borders, we will also notice that water moves from the middle of the lake to its borders as we adjust in a flow map. We could even open our vertex painter and flow map and we could make this effect stronger, so it will be much more visible when we will look on the lake borders. We could do this just in specific place. It's all up to user. Yeah, we could play with this lake even more. Also, you could modify the whole shape or mask of the lake like it was in rivers. So everything will be refreshed automatically. You could modify the shape of the lake and the masks a lot, adding new points, removing points. I think there's a lot of possibilities that will help you to adjust these lakes. Yeah, we could look at these lakes and play with it very long time, but I think it's enough for this tutorial. I hope I showed you as many features as I could, which directly help you to develop your procedural generated scene. In such scenes, we have to think about shadows, because we mostly want to render shadows in bigger distance to expose, for example, background, hills and terrain shapes. Here we set up long distance shadows about 1200. It will really help to expose it. Look how it will look without it. It seems that, yeah, it's something that must be in the big outdoor scenes. The second thing that you have to remember is that you should use deferred rendering type. It's because if you will put many reflection props, for example for lakes and ice surface reflection, they will render this object as many times as many you have reflection probes. So to avoid this overhead on terrain and other surfaces, even on trees, just use deferred rendering for sure. So we finally hit the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will build something own based on this stuff, and of course show us what have you done. So see you next time. Next tutorial for sure will be not about snow and winter scenery. Bye.